our students in the SAIIA Youth Policy Committee. She's actually about to go off to Paris for the United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP21. And this will be a very exciting next couple of weeks because we're actually expecting some big things, hopefully, to happen after this conference. So, Maura, if you don't mind, maybe you could just start off by telling us a little bit about what is COP and why should the world actually care about this?
Okay, so COP, or Conference of the Parties, is an annual conference held under the United Nations framework on Convention on Climate Change. And the aim of the conference is to track the progress of nation states with regards to climate change issues, as well as adopt agreements and set goals for tackling the certain climate change issues that we face. So the international response to climate change was sparked by the 1992 Rio Earth Summit, which led to the first COP being held in Berlin in 1995.
Can you tell me a little bit more about why this year is so special?
So what we expect to see from COP21, which is being held in Paris, is an ambitious, legally binding agreement between nation states with the aim of keeping the global temperature increase below 2 degrees Celsius. So what happens at COP is that there are negotiations between all the different countries under the framework convention, and civil society and non-governmental organizations attend the negotiations as well, so that we have a well-rounded representation of views.
So 2 words we often hear a lot of in climate change discussions and just even on climate change is mitigation and adaptation. Can you tell us a little bit more about what mitigation and adaptation to climate change actually means?
So when we speak about mitigation, we're speaking about curbing the emission of harmful gases into the atmosphere. And so that would involve doing things like implementing renewable energy so that we don't have to burn any more fossil fuels. When we speak about adaptation, it speaks to the fact that the effects of climate change are already being felt, and so countries need to find solutions that will help us to deal with the environment as it is currently.
Why is there a particular focus also on adaptation right now?
In the past, the discussion has revolved around mitigation, and that is just about stopping climate change. But more recently, developing states have been bringing the conversation more closely to adaptation, and that is because we are already seeing the effects on the developing world and how climate change affects them. So for example, small islands are going underwater because of the effects of climate change, and we're seeing droughts in Africa as a result as well.
So what's maybe some of the tensions around mitigation and adaptation?
So there's tension around this issue because the developing states are being affected disproportionately by climate change, whereas the developed world has largely been responsible for the consequences of climate change. And so the issue here is that who is responsible for finding and implementing solutions? Another big issue is finance, because implementing adaptation goals will cost a lot of money, and so the developing world is relying on the developed world to support them in ways that they are able to adapt to the climate.
Maura, what's very exciting is that you're actually going as a youth delegate with the South African delegation. Maybe you could talk about South Africa's position.
South Africa is chairing the G77 plus China and also plays a key role as part of the Africa group. Also as a country that has been pushing for adaptation goals in the legally binding agreement in Paris, we expect to see South Africa play a very strong leadership role throughout the negotiations.
Coming back to you as a young person right now, you're just 20 years old. Why do you think climate change is so important for young people to care about?
For me, as a young person, I feel that taking part in climate change discussions is very important, not only because as a young person we're able to bring fresh, innovative, new ideas, but because we're quite young now and we're not as experienced, but by the time that these agreements come into action, we'll already be equipped with the information and the experience necessary to be able to really take part and be part of the solution. One of the points that we made in our youth statement as the Youth Policy Committee is that we really want the legally binding agreement to be ambitious, and if as young people we take part in the conversation today, we're able to see that through when the legally binding agreement comes into effect.
Well, Maura, it was great chatting to you, and enjoy Paris.